Did you know our sweet tooth is basically prehistoric? Millions of years ago, early humans stumbled upon ripe fruit packed with natural sugars and thought, jackpot. Back then, sugar wasn't just a treat, it was survival fuel. Sweetness meant calories, and calories meant staying alive in a world where dinner didn't come prepackaged. Fast forward to today, and this sugar obsession has stuck around, shaping everything from our diets to dessert menus. Evolution has a sweet side, after all. But when did we start eating sweets not for survival, but for pleasure? Specifically as a separate course at the end of a meal. The concept of dessert as we know it today is actually a relatively recent development in human history, despite our long-standing love of sweet flavors. While people throughout history have enjoyed sweet foods, the idea of dessert becoming a distinct and structured part of a meal took centuries to evolve. In ancient times, satisfying a sweet tooth was no easy feat, unless you were a god, royalty, or incredibly wealthy. Civilizations like Mesopotamia, Persia, and India reserved their sweet delicacies, dried fruits, honey, and the earliest forms of candy, for sacred rituals, offerings to the gods, or as extravagant gifts to rulers. Sugar, in particular, was the ultimate luxury item, a rare and expensive commodity that only the elite could afford to sprinkle into their lives. These sweet treats weren't just food, they were symbols of power, status, and divinity. Things began to change around 500 BC when India started cultivating sugarcane. The process of extracting sugar crystals from the cane spread through trade and conquest, introducing sweetness to new regions. When Persian and later Islamic empires discovered this honey without bees, they cherished it, refining its production and incorporating it into their cuisines. Over time, sugar became a prized item on trade routes, fueling the expansion of its cultivation across Asia, the Middle East, and eventually Europe. Still, for centuries, sugar remained exclusive, a VIP-only indulgence that symbolized wealth, privilege, and the sweeter side of life. It wasn't until the colonial era, when sugar plantations took root in the tropics, that sugar slowly became more accessible to the masses. But, in its earliest days, sugar was not just food. It was power, luxury, and a taste of something divine. In medieval Europe, sugar was a rarity and treated more like a spice or medicine than a food. It was so precious that it was often used sparingly, combined with herbs and spices to create concoctions meant to treat various ailments, such as digestive issues, sore throats, or infections. Apothecaries, rather than kitchens, were the primary venues for sugar's use, where it was ground and mixed into potions, syrups, and lozenges. At this time, sugar was also seen as having warming properties, further elevating its status as a medicinal ingredient. However, its use wasn't limited to medicine. In the royal courts of Europe, sugar began to take on a new role, no longer just functional but symbolic. By the late medieval period, sweets made of sugar started appearing at grand banquets and feasts, not just as food, but as icons of wealth, power, and sophistication. Elaborate sugar sculptures, known as subtleties, became the centerpiece of banquet tables. These sculptures were often shaped like castles, mythical creatures, or religious symbols, and were designed to impress guests. The artistry behind these creations demonstrated the skill of the chefs and the immense resources of the host, as the cost of sugar was exorbitantly high. Marzipan fruits, candied nuts, and sugared flowers also became popular, serving as both edible delicacies and decorative elements. However, these sweets were less about indulging a sweet tooth and more about creating a visual and social spectacle. The concept of dessert as a structured course began to take shape in the 17th century, particularly in France. At the opulent court of Versailles under King Louis XIV, desserts transformed into theatrical displays of power and extravagance. Lavish towers of glazed fruits, intricate pastries, and sugar-coated candies became the grand finale of formal meals, often accompanied by dramatic presentations. These displays weren't just about food, but about creating an unforgettable experience for the guests, emphasizing the wealth and sophistication of the French monarchy. This tradition of desserts as a showpiece gradually influenced European dining culture, where the idea of a separate dessert course became a standard part of formal meals. As European colonial powers expanded and sugar plantations flourished in the Caribbean and other tropical regions, the global sugar trade grew exponentially. This led to sugar becoming more accessible over time, trickling down from the aristocracy to the middle and lower classes. By the 18th and 19th centuries, desserts were no longer the exclusive privilege of the wealthy. Sugar was used in everyday baking and confections, such as cakes, puddings, and cookies, making sweet treats a common indulgence across all social classes. What began as an expensive symbol of power had evolved into an integral part of everyday life, shaping culinary traditions that continue to this day. Dessert recipes from history are like time capsules, filled with sweetness and a sprinkle of culture. In ancient Rome, honey cakes were the OG treats, proving honey was the MVP of sweeteners long before sugar crashed the party. These cakes weren't just desserts. They were multitasking snacks loaded with nuts, dried fruits, and herbs, perfect for fueling festivals and celebrations without a sugar rush. Meanwhile, over in India, dessert making was already a fine art, with mithai like laddus and barfis stealing the spotlight. Made with ghee, jaggery, and nuts, these sugary gems weren't just delicious. They symbolized prosperity, devotion, and a solid excuse to eat dessert first. Meanwhile, in medieval England, apple pie began to appear in the 14th century, though it wasn't the sweet dessert we know today. Instead, it was a practical way to preserve fruit, with spices like cinnamon and nutmeg enhancing the flavor. The crust, or coffin as it was called, was often thick and inedible, designed to protect the filling rather than to be eaten. By the 19th century, the world of sweets underwent a dramatic transformation thanks to the Industrial Revolution and mass sugar production. Sugar, once a luxury item, became affordable and accessible to the general population, leading to a surge in baking and dessert making across households. Bakeries flourished in cities, offering a range of pastries, cakes, and breads to the growing urban population. Desserts shifted from being occasional indulgences to becoming everyday staples. Ice cream, which was once a delicacy reserved for the elite, became widely available due to advancements in freezing technology. The invention of mechanical refrigeration and insulated ice houses made it possible to produce and store ice cream at scale, turning it into a summer favorite for people of all classes. Candy experienced a similar boom during this time, as confectioners began experimenting with new techniques and ingredients to create colorful, affordable treats for the masses, especially children. This era also saw the rise of iconic desserts like elaborately decorated layer cakes, sugary donuts with their irresistible glazes, and creamy puddings. These sweets became integral parts of family celebrations, birthdays, and social gatherings, symbolizing joy and togetherness. As desserts became more accessible, they also began to reflect regional flavors and traditions, blending old recipes with new innovations to create the diverse world of sweets we enjoy today. From ancient honey cakes to modern cupcakes, the story of dessert is a journey through history, culture, and innovation. Desserts have never been more exciting or tempting. From Grandma's time-tested recipes to wild, flavor-bending creations that look like they belong in an art gallery, there's something sweet for everyone. Whether it's a slice of cake, a scoop of gelato, or a bite of mithai, desserts aren't just treats. They're edible history lessons wrapped in sugar, reminding us why just one more bite is the most delicious lie we tell ourselves. Craving something sweet? Join us in our latest video as we dive into the stories, history, and creation of these irresistible desserts that are sure to satisfy your sweet tooth. From classic stories to unique facts, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to our channel for more videos about craziest and unknown facts or even places.